Find yourself in a comfortable position. Begin by taking a few deep breaths. Close your eyes or assume a soft gaze. Feel the places where your body connects to the ground, and feel the ground support you as it connects to those places. Imagine that you are somewhere that holds meaning for you. It could be familiar or unfamiliar. You are gently moving, with intention, but without rush. Notice the ground upon which you move. Perhaps it is soft grass, a dusty dirt path, concrete, or even an indoor floor. You carry with you a small bag containing a most sacred gift, a seed of possibility, born from your gratefulness. You are on a journey to plant this seed. Your destination comes into view. Perhaps it is a tilled garden bed, a field, the woods, or a room with a container, maybe even just a cup. When you arrive, you take a moment to root yourself. You might say hello to this place. Open your senses to the surrounding area, take a few deep breaths, audibly sigh. Consider what preparation might be needed for planting. You might begin by asking permission or expressing thanks. Is the soil that will hold this seed ready for sowing, or might it need some tending? Are there any weeds or stones that need to be cleared to allow space for your seed to take root and grow? Is there any other action that might help make this act of seed planting feel like a sacred ceremony? When you're ready, take out your small bag and pour the seed into your hand. Remembering that the essence of this seed is sourced in gratefulness, gently close your fist. Tune into the possibility that exists within this seed. What wants to emerge from this seed as an extension of your grateful heart? Imagine the seed buried in nutritive soil, germinating with light and water, growing roots and stem and leaves and flowers, and soon more seeds, so the cycle may continue. What takes shape? What flourishes? How and who and what might this growth nourish? Place your seed in the soil. As an act of completion, you may want to set an intention, say a blessing, and or express gratitude. And now you may leave this place, trusting that your seed will grow. Slowly bring awareness back to your body and the space in which you find yourself, and take a few deep breaths. I ask you to spend some time reflecting on the following questions. What would it look like to plant the seed for a vision that you've been holding? Once you've planted your seed, how best can you tend to it so that it may grow? Our reading this morning is an excerpt from Howard Thurman's autobiography, With Head and Heart. When I was young, I found more companionship in nature than I did among people. The woods befriended me. The quiet, even the danger of the woods provided my rather lonely spirit with a sense of belonging that did not depend on human relationships. I could sense the strength of the quiet and the aliveness of the woods. Nightfall was meaningful to my childhood, for the night was more than a companion. It was a presence, an articulate climate. There was something about the night that seemed to cover my spirit like a gentle blanket. The nights in Florida as I grew up seemed to have certain dominant characteristics. They were not dark, they were black. When there was no moon, the stars hung like lanterns. So close, I felt I could reach up and pluck them from the heavens. The night had its own language. Sometimes the night seemed to have movement in it, as if it were a great ocean wave. Other times, it was deathly still, no rhythm, no movement. At such times, I could hear the night think and feel the night feel. This comforted me. I felt embraced, enveloped, held secure. In some fantastic way, the night belonged to me. All the little secrets of my life and heart and all my most intimate and private thoughts would not be violated, I knew, if I spread them out before me in the night. When things went badly during the day, I would sort them out in the dark as I lay in my bed, cradled by the night sky. The ocean and the river befriended me when I was a child. Here I found alone a special benediction. The ocean and the night together surrounded my little life with a reassurance that could not be affronted by the behavior of human beings. The ocean at night gave me a sense of timelessness, of existing beyond the reach of the ebb and flow of circumstances. Death would be a minor thing, I felt, in the sweep of that natural embrace. A sense I held, I felt rooted in life, in nature, in existence. When the storms blew, the branches of the large oak tree in our backyard would snap and fall. But the topmost branches of the oak tree would sway, giving way just enough to save themselves from snapping loose. I needed the strength of that tree, and like it, I wanted to hold my ground. Eventually, I discovered that the oak tree and I had a unique relationship. I could sit, my back against its trunk, and feel the same peace that would come to me in my bed at night. I could reach down in the quiet places of my spirit, take out my bruises and my joys, unfold them, and talk about them. I could talk aloud to the oak tree and know that I was understood. It, too, was a part of my reality, like the woods, the night, and the pounding surf, my earliest companions, giving me space. Good morning. It is a joy to be with you today. This weekend marks a celebration of the earth, a day in which we recall our seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. I know that the Article 2 changes have been a hot topic of discussion lately in Unitarian Universalist circles, but our principles aren't going away. They're merely evolving. So I have a few questions for you. Do you ever truly know yourself to be a part of the interdependent web of all existence? Do you ever stop to think about how important creatures like bees are? How urgent climate change is? How vital you yourself are in every possible way? In Memphis, Tennessee, where I live, everything is blooming and green and growing right now. I know we all have concerns about climate change, as well we should. The earth is warming at unprecedented rates, and it is being caused by the actions of human beings. And yet the paradox is, although we know the facts of climate change, there is something about spring's emerging signs of life that fills us with happiness. When I take my daily walk around my neighborhood, I see irises, tulips, narcissus, dogwoods, azaleas, roses, snapdragons, honeysuckle, and other flowering vines. I confess that I have let my grass grow fluffy and tall right up until just a couple of days ago. I realize my neighbors probably think it looks a little funny, but it makes the bees happy. I have a large beehive inside a hollow tree next to my driveway, in the middle of a city. So far this year, it has already split twice from this one tree beehive. I was fortunate enough to be witness on Easter Sunday to a great cloud of bees swirling as they left my yard and headed for their new home. I will be happy to share that video with y'all if you want to see it. It feels quite miraculous to me every year when days grow warmer and buds emerge and flowers begin to bloom. It is truly glorious outside right now. I'd like to share with you a summary of a video that I watched not long ago, which basically states that climate change is a very large, complex issue. And the vast majority of pollution that is causing climate change comes from things like factories and farming, which feeds and raises animals for meat production, as well as things like construction. Our individual personal responsibility has been wildly overblown. The most important steps that you and I can each take include flying less, driving less, and eating a plant-based diet, if at all possible. But the very most important thing that we can do is vote people into office who will care deeply about the well-being of our planet and about people, not about capitalism, and who will work to change the laws governing industry and corporations. I titled this Growing in Divinity for a few reasons. One, we are all a part of the incredible diversity of the universe. It is ever expanding and growing, as are all living beings. And second, though we may reach adulthood and stop physically growing, it is my hope that all of us continue to grow emotionally and spiritually our entire lives. When I was a student in seminary, I had a professor named Dr. Barbara A. Holmes, who liked to talk about how we are all made of stardust. She told me that everything originates from the same elemental building blocks. We are not separate from the universe. We are intimately intertwined with it and with each other. In her book, Race and the Cosmos, she says, "The spirit whispers, the ancestors agree. You are star-born and God-loved. The universe awaits your gifts." None of us may remember it precisely, but when we were born, it is likely that someone celebrated our birth, that people were thrilled to see our newborn faces. As we grew, someone wondered what our lives would be like as we moved into adulthood. Every single person hearing this message, yes, you and you and you too, are glorious, unique expressions of spirit. We are no less special and beautiful just because we now have bills or wrinkles. As you heard in the reading previously, Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman said that the natural world nurtured and supported him when he was a child. I feel similarly, though I lack the eloquence of the great doctor. When I was little, growing up in an abusive home, books and trees were my refuge. I felt safe within the pages of a book, cradled in the woods where nobody yelled and nobody could hit me. The trees comforted me, listened to me, and reassured me that I would be okay. Reverend Dr. Dorsey Blake was also my instructor when I was in seminary. In a podcast with Dr. Holmes from 2022, Dr. Blake said, "When you read Dr. Thurman's works and he talks as a child about how he was so connected to nature, the stars, and how he had this oak tree in his backyard that he could lean against and pour out all that had happened in the day, My point in knowing that, not only did the oak tree have his back, but the oak tree actually spoke to him in consummate language, in tree language. We are all born into a world of awe. That's the thing that guided our emotions, our lives. We were exploring. We could do things that parents said, no, no, no. So we were born with that, all of us. And so when we looked at the stars, we would go, wow, or the moon, wow, those kinds of things. So we were born with this idea of going beyond boundaries. And that's part of mysticism, going beyond what is the norm or acceptable. And then we had to be brought back and socialized. And that's our parents' job, and it's not their fault. But that's also kind of the problem. We made our socialization our reality rather than our awe. How awesome is the entire web of life, which includes plants and trees and animals, oceans and earth, sun and moon and stars. I took my 8-year-old daughter with me to see the eclipse recently. Perhaps many of you did as well. It took less than 2 hours to drive from my home to Crawley's Ridge State Park in Arkansas, which was directly in the path of the totality. And it took over 5 hours to get home when it was over, because everybody left at the same time, and all the nearby roads converge in West Memphis. There is something magical about witnessing a total solar eclipse. It is different than a lunar eclipse or seeing a meteor shower or any other natural phenomena. The light grew dim. The temperature dropped. Shadows began forming in an odd grayish light. Animals began to act as though it was sunset. The birds grew quiet. We saw some stars, and we were able to see Jupiter as well as Venus. I think the odd part for me was that everyone in the park cheered and clapped when the sun disappeared, and applauded again when it reemerged a few minutes later. Out of a moment so special, dare I say even holy, it felt discordant to me. But maybe it wasn't. Everyone witnessing the event felt something profound. Perhaps applause is the right response, because although science told us what would happen, it feels different when it finally does. That's how awe functions. You may know something intellectually, but when you finally experience it, the majesty of the occasion stops you in your tracks. You have to be still to take it all in. In my own personal theology, I identify with panentheism, which is the idea that the divine is in us and all around us, beyond us, within space and time, as well as more than that. I'm going to pull in what my friend Starr said to me last Wednesday about how everyone has a spark of divinity within them. She says that's why you can feel someone come up near you or behind you. You don't hear them, you don't see them, you sense them. She says that it's the energy inside of them that you're sensing, which is also the spark of divinity. And I can hear you now, my beloved skeptics. You may be saying, there must be another explanation. And yes, there very well could be a faint electrical field or a slight breeze or a gentle sound. All of that could be true, yes. I love that about us, that we can all believe in differing things. Tomorrow, April 22nd, marks the 8th anniversary of my mother's death. I want to note that those of us who have passed on physically remain with us in our hearts. Whether there is part of them that lives on in another realm after they are gone is debatable, but the memories that we shared with them absolutely remain. The words that they said to us, the things that we did together, we get to hold those in our hearts until we too pass from this world and become memories for the people that we love. Maybe a part of who we are continues in some form after death. Maybe it doesn't. Regardless of your beliefs, whether we are all carrying sparks of the divine or just a part of us that makes us alive is attributed to science, All of us, all living creatures, are part of the whole. And that means that no one is disposable. No one is extra. All of us are necessary. Emotionally, spiritually, physically, it matters that you are alive right now. And it matters how you spend your days. I believe that people will miss us when we are gone. So if we are growing in divinity, growing in collaboration, in joy, in creating the beloved community here on earth, perhaps that means that we might be ever conscious of our impact on the people around us and on the planet. What legacy do we want to leave behind? Perhaps we might be a little bit more sensitive when we have a disagreement with someone. Perhaps we might be a little more conscientious about how our resources are used or shared, how they might be multiplied and distributed for the greatest good of all concerned. Perhaps growing in divinity means recognizing that our time is limited. I'd like to mention to you a book that I just finished by Oliver Burkeman entitled 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals. In his book, the author outlines that the average human lifespan is only 4,000 weeks. That's average. Some people get far less, and some people live to be 96, like my grandfather did. But all of us have limited time. None of us will be here forever. And because we have limited time, we mustn't waste it. We shouldn't waste it in self-pity or deliberately isolating ourselves from others. We shouldn't waste it by mindlessly scrolling on our phones or by being too busy to do things with someone that we love, because we realize that our time is precious, and so is theirs, and our earth is precious. And so because of all of these things, because of how deeply intertwined our lives are with the lives of other human and non-human beings, and our interconnectedness with the atmosphere and the soil, the oceans and the bees and the flowers, the trees and the blue-tailed skinks, all of it is connected. And so we must do everything that we can to savor our lives and to truly live while we are alive, to protect each other and the planet, so that there's still an earth around for future generations to enjoy. I'm going to close with the words of Alan Watts. Through our eyes, the universe is perceiving itself. Through our ears, the universe is listening to its harmonies. We are the witnesses through which the universe becomes conscious of its glory, its magnificence. May you find awe in the natural world today and in connection with other living creatures. Amen, and blessed be. Our benediction today is by the poet Rumi. You were born with potential. You were born with goodness and trust. You were born with ideals and dreams. You were born with greatness. You were born with wings. You were not meant for crawling, so don't. You have wings. Learn to use them and fly.